Well, in 1986, I don't think any of us had even heard of this place called Top Gun. In fact, I remember watching this as I think a 17 or 16-year-old going, Navy guys fly? I thought that was the boat one. I didn't even know that. But all of a sudden, after this film came out, oh my goodness, we were crazy for Top Gun and aviator shades and Iceman. Everybody wanted to either join the Navy or date someone in the Navy, and possibly both because it was weird in the 80s. But here's the thing, it was just crazy because all of a sudden, this phenomena sort of burst on the scene, and I was reading this week kind of about how this movie grew over the first 4 weeks, which doesn't happen very often. At the end of 4 weeks, there were 45% more theaters showing Top Gun than there were when it started. So it was for good reason. As Americans, we've always loved movies about bravery, and especially soldiers and military and war movies. So it's not surprising that we would love a movie like that, but there was just something about sort of the best and the brightest in Navy aviation that just captured a nation. And all of a sudden it was Maverick, and I think this quote sort of sums up how we felt about this entire film and sort of the mania that went along with Top Gun. He said, "I just want to serve my country and be the best fighter pilot in the Navy." Sir, it was amazing. But here's the thing, I don't think that's the only thing that resonated about Top Gun with us. We've always loved war movies. We've always, as a nation, loved soldiers, and that sort of film is captivating. But I think there's a part of this that speaks to all of us, even if we're not perhaps in the military or have people in the military in our family. That's what we look for in our At the Movie series. We're not just crazy about movies, whether it's 80s movies or modern movies, but we realize that movies sort of capture our society. Like if you look at this movie from 1986, it captures 1986. I was there, I sort of remember. But I think it's not just the want to serve my country part of this quote. I think there's a part that we can all relate to, even if we're the furthest thing away from being in the military or being a fighter or being a soldier. This idea of wanting to be the very best. This competitive nature that they had. And it's funny, like, one of the things I have to show you, and I'm going to act like I don't want to do this, but the competition in this film, like, went everywhere. It wasn't just for the trophy. It wasn't just to be the best fighter pilot. I mean, who can forget? And if you're trying to forget, I'm sorry, but I have to show you this sand volleyball competition. I mean, it's important. Let's go! Wow, that seemed like an eternity. 93 seconds, but do you get the idea that everyone wants to be Top Gun in this film? And I also feel like, God, I feel so sorry for Anthony Edwards who played Goose, because can you imagine, I was thinking this week, like, can you imagine that conversation they had to have in costuming? Like, Anthony, here's the deal. You're going to be in the volleyball scene, but we're going to need you to wear a shirt. Now, we'll take the sleeves off. We will take the sleeves off, but you're going to be the only guy on the beach in a shirt. I mean, we're going to give you a backstory and some sort of melanoma issue, but we're going completely. It had to be horrible. But anyway, like, but you can't watch that. Well, I mean, you can watch that, but you can't watch that and not know that, oh my goodness, this is a group of guys. This is a story of competition, extreme competition of everyone. And here's the thing, everyone in the scene, everyone in the movie, whether it's Slider or Goose or Maverick or Hollywood, not that I know all the names, that would just be sad at 50 years, I would remember that, but I do. But Viper was wearing a hat, but I'm just saying, I did that research. But anyway, like, they all want to wear the weird trucker hat that says Top Gun on it. Like, that's the prize and everyone wants it. And it's kind of weird when you think about it. Like, I understand why the Navy would do this, and Top Gun is a real thing. It is something to teach fighter pilots and sort of to compete. And they're, when you're in a dogfight situation, there are no points for second place. You're dead. So I understand why they would sort of put their best and the brightest and compete against each other. But it's interesting when you really think about it from the perspective of the pilots, like there's this tiny reward at the end, right? Like they're doing all of this. They're like risking their life, risking hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment, like putting all this effort, all this study, all of this energy into sort of getting a trucker hat that's sort of poorly embroidered and like their name on a plaque. Like that's the only thing you get, and you get to come back and be a teacher. But it's amazing kind of if you sort of step back, not to take anything away from the military or military aviators, like they are truly amazing guys, but to go, you're doing all of this, you're risking your lives, you're sort of doing all of this effort and energy, all these calories burned for such a tiny, tiny reward, and it's dangerous, right? Like, if you didn't catch that, they play this song like 1,000 times. They let you know that, right? Because over and up, it's the only film I can think of. Like, I was trying to think, has there ever been another film where they played the main title song? They play it 3 times during the film. You cannot get away from Highway to the Danger Zone if it's burned in my brain. If you are going to watch Top Gun, and I was laughing, like it's the perfect 80s song, because like if the power went out, there's no instrument used in this song that if the power went out you could play. Like there's nothing real in that song. It's all synthesizer. It's awesome. But here's the thing that I would sort of take away, and why I wanted to talk to you about this morning, not just for that weird volleyball thing. I didn't like that at all, I promise you. But anyway, like why I wanted to talk to you about this is because I think in our hearts, and I know for me, every one of us wants to wear the Top Gun hat. This is me in 1986, and yes, even though it would have been extremely difficult to fit over my perm mullet, which is a perm in the back and a mullet on top. I've explained this before, you should know this. But we want to wear the Top Gun hat. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Like some of you are going, yeah, I'm that guy. Not that guy. That would be embarrassing to be that guy. But I know that some of you are thinking like right now, like, no, I'm not that competitive. Now, some of you would admit it. And let's just think about like this whole deal of Top Gun is that there's sort of a tiny reward, huge effort and sort of huge risk, but yet they're willing to put everything into the competition. Now, some of us right now, we're like poking our husband or boyfriend or something because guys are competitive. And so right now, ladies, you're probably going, yeah, that's men. Or that's type A men. That's testosterone men, which is the San Francisco treat. I don't know, like that's something like, and some of you are thinking right now, like, but I'm not like that. I'm not competitive. Now, how hard, let me just ask you this. Let's start zooming in this because my theory is that all of us are competitive. That every one of us really wants to be Top Gun in something. Maybe not in naval aviation, I will grant you that. But think about like how hard we will work to win a political argument on Twitter, right? Like we'll put huge effort in it. Think about like 2 words, fantasy football. Like how many of you guys will spend like 300 hours to win a $25 pot at the end of the year because you've got to be the best? That's what we do, right? Not to count like real sports, which I don't count because we would have to have James talk about it because none of us know real sports here except for possibly James and Matt. But anyway, it's like amazing to think about just as humans, what we'll do. Now, ladies, I know you're thinking, well, that's a guy thing or that's a type of, no, it's not. See, it's funny, like, think about this. Think about, like, the sport of Instagram, right? Like, how hard will you work to put together that perfect spur of the moment snap that you didn't even try for at all to get the most likes? And so I really believe, and my theory is this morning, that all of us compete. And we compete sort of, and we all have an area. If we just sort of drill down, and I would just tell you this morning, this is one of those things, as I talk about this today, that is really hard to see in the mirror, but like really sort of easy to see in others. Like if you're sitting here this morning going, oh, I'm not competitive, I don't want to be the best at anything, I guarantee your friends know what it is. You might even ask them. You might not be friends afterward. But there is something, ladies, gentlemen, Grandma is competing in the nursing home right now over who has the cutest grandkids. I mean, that's what we do. We want to be Top Gun. And here's the truth of it, and it's just real, it is the highway to the devil. I'm just going to keep playing that until I somehow burn that into you. But it is. It's weird that as humans, we all compete. We're all driven to compete. We all will work exceptionally hard to be the best at something. And yet, it really, it's dangerous. Lives are ruined, and relationships are ruined, and careers are ruined. In fact, that's really the story of Top Gun. If you have seen the film, I'll spoil it for you if you haven't. The problem with Maverick is he's very talented. He's an amazing flyer, but he is so competitive that he won't even help out a teammate. He actually will again and again sort of hurts himself because he cannot bring himself to do anything more than just full competition all the time. He can't sort of follow the rules, or he doesn't follow the rules. He can. But again and again and again, he sort of shoots himself in the foot because he's such a competitor that he has to be the best. And I think that's true for most of us. Like, most of us actually harm ourselves because we're so competitive. We'd probably do better if we could just sort of learn to deal with that side of ourselves a little bit, and we'd certainly have better relationships, and probably people would like us better online. And now here's the tricky part. I want you to think about this, because this is the difficult part of this. Because right now, when I say you're competitive, you're thinking like about others, because this is hard to see in the mirror and easy to see in others. But the difficult thing about being competitive is the and. Like in this quote, Maverick says, I want to serve my country. I mean, there's nothing more sort of noble than that, right? Like, in life, someone who would take, and naval aviators, or aviators in general, like I had a friend who was a Apache helicopter pilot. Later on, he got out of the service and made great money as a helicopter pilot, but they don't even make a lot of money. Like, they risk their lives. They go through all this training, some of the most rigorous training. And he was making, I think, back in the 80s, like when he got on, like, I don't know, 28,000 a year. It was crazy, like sort of the effort. And so on one hand, these people like Maverick, who would serve their country, like give their life for their country, you go, there is nothing more noble. And I want to be the best part. And so that's sort of what I want you to think about this morning. And what I would tell you is, like, some of your most noble notions as a human, and some of your, like, sort of best parts of you, there's an and. Like, let me give you an example. Like, I just love my children. That's a great thing. And I want to be the best mom on Facebook, right? Like, that's a real thing. Like, how about this one? Like, I just want to provide for my family. That's a good thing, right? Like, I just want to provide for my family well and be the top salesman at my company. I mean, like, it's amazing. Like, it's both great and sort of dangerous because we're competing. How about this one? Here's one that you go, well, what could be better? And I just want to show my girlfriend how much I love her, and that I want to spend the rest of my life with her, and I need to go viral on YouTube with this proposal. It's going to be awesome, better than anybody's. I mean, isn't that true? Like, we will take sort of our best notion, and I'm not just making fun of you, and let me just say this, like, I'm not on social media, and that's, so if you feel like he's talking about me, I haven't seen it, I promise. Your friends told me to talk about it. Okay, so that's it. Now, seriously. But here's the thing, like, I'll make fun of preachers. Like, there's a scene in Top Gun, which we didn't play, where they're in the shower. I hope you don't remember that. I sort of do. And there's competition in towels. It's really weird. But here's the thing, like, that is a picture of, like, anytime you get pastors together, except we're not in that much shape, we're really out of shape, and we're not wearing towels, but it's that same feeling. Like, it's amazing, like, even pastors will be like, I just want to preach the gospel and I want to have the best rocket church in York County. You know, it's like amazing. Like, we all compete. Like, there's nobody, like, it's so funny. Like, pastors are the worst about this. Whenever I get together with pastors, we're kind of like, and we do it. I'll just make fun of pastors. Like, we do it in a way that seems like we're humble and we care about the other person, but we don't. Like, we'll go like, hey, brother, how's the attendance going in the summer? How are you? You know, like, and we act like we care, but we're really wondering if they're doing better than us. Or we'll say things like, pretty tired with all the growth in my church. We've had to add a second service. Been rough on the family. Pray for us. You know, like, that's the kind. So it's not just you. It's me. I invented it. It's not just you. It's me. But here's the thing. Like, we compete. We sort of the best things in life, like the sort of our most noble, like, hey, I just want to be healthy. I just want to be healthy so I can have a long life for my family, and I'm going to share some great gym shots on. You know, like, that's the way it is. Or we can even do it the other way. We can even compete in not being healthy. Like, hey, I'm not really in shape, but I'm the most comfortable with not being in shape. Like, we can compete. I didn't get any laughs, but it's true. Like, we can compete in everything. We'll take a picture of that. Hey, I'm the most comfortable with this thing. Like, it's amazing. Like, we can find things. And the problem with that is, like, if you think I'm going to kind of come up here and say, hey, don't compete, or hey, you need to cut that out. I can't, because it's in you. And it's in me, and it's sort of wrapped around some of the best parts of our lives. Some of the most noble, helpful things that you and I do. Like, I just want to serve my country, and I want to be the best fighter pilot in the Navy. It's just normal. Now, what I will tell you is the highway is dangerous. Right? That's so much fun. I want this stuff in every sermon from now on. I'm just saying. But it's natural. Now, here's why I want to tell you, as a Christian, and there is a point to this from Scripture, we look to Jesus as Christians, and if you're not a Christian this morning, you can at least sort of listen in and understand why Christians are weird and know more about us. But if you're a follower of Jesus this morning, as I am, and why we gather this morning, because we go, Jesus is Lord, and Jesus has the answer. So when we look to the Bible, look to Jesus and go, what should we do about this competitive nature that's in us? It's interesting that it shows up in one of the weirdest places. Like, it shows up in what we call as Christians the Last Supper of Jesus. Like, at the moment where Jesus is having the Passover meal we celebrated in communion, that moment where he gathered his disciples around and he's telling them, hey, one of the guys is going to just, one of these guys is going to totally out me. One of these guys is going to betray me. Look what happens during that meal. I mean, it's so clear that we are competitive. In Luke 22, it says, but here at this table, this is Jesus talking, he's telling them about Judas. He says, sitting among us as a friend is a man who will betray me. For it has been determined that the Son of Man must die. But what sorrow awaits the one who betrays him? And you might think the disciples would be going, oh my goodness, that can't possibly happen. Who is it? I mean, that's impossible. Instead, it says the disciples begin to ask each other, which of the one would ever do such thing? And you go, well, that's normal. And notice what they do next. So then they begin to argue among themselves about who would be the greatest. Everyone, even the disciples, at the Last Supper, this is an actual photo, I believe, from the documentary. They all want to be Top Gun in this story. Isn't that amazing? Like, you talk about how sort of wrapped around our most noble sort of parts of us as sinful humans, like even the best part of us, like, hey, Jesus, they've just been telling, hey, Jesus, we'll die with you. Hey, Jesus, we'll never leave you. Hey, Jesus, we're going to spread this story to the ends of the earth. And I want to be the best at it. I want to be Top Gun. And now, we don't have time to sort of go more into that story, but I do want to tell you this. We actually have a T-shirt printed that says, but among you, it will be different. It basically goes on to say that if you want to be first, you'll be last. The one who wants to be greatest among you will serve the most people. Now, I want you to notice, like, Jesus could have easily said, hey, cut that out. Cut that whole competing thing out. We don't do that as Christians. As my disciples will never compete. My disciples will never want. Instead, he didn't do that at all. But what Jesus did is sort of instructive, I think, even though we don't have time to maybe read the whole passage. Jesus sort of leveraged that competitive nature. He said, here's the rules of the game. You guys want to compete? The one who's going to be the greatest is going to suffer the most. The one who's going to be the greatest is going to give himself to the most people. The one who's going to be first will be last. And so what Jesus did, it's sort of instructive, and I think it's interesting and powerful as Christians to go, Jesus didn't say, don't have that competitive streak in you. What he said is, here's the way we should behave. Now, Paul, I've got to stop doing that. But Paul had a strategy. He didn't have this song, only I have it. This is another moment in a sermon. Josiah, we've done this many times. I always go, yeah, put it in like a dozen times. It'll be fun. And then I regret it immediately. But anyway, we're going to power through. But Paul has a couple strategies for us to sort of deal with. Because Jesus didn't say, hey, don't feel that. Don't be competitive. He said, here's how you will leverage that thing. But Paul had a couple things that I want to share with you this morning. Because if it's in all of us, even Christians, and it doesn't go away because we accept Christ as our leader and commander. But we do need, I believe, strategies to deal with that. Like, how can we go through life and not alienate those around us because we just have to be top guys? Like, how can we go through life and actually be, the Bible talks about us being salt and light. We need to be attractive. And I'm not talking about physically attractive, but we need to be people who are attractive to those around us who aren't Christians, who aren't followers of Christ. And that is not going to happen if they're so annoyed with us on Facebook, because we just have to be fast. So I just want to read a couple of strategies, because Paul dealt with this a lot. And I think Paul, we tend to sort of make the writers of Scripture, especially the Apostle Paul, like not human, like we kind of make him almost equal to Jesus in the church. It's not true. Paul was a man. And I think Paul, quite frankly, struggled with competing with others a lot. Like when I read, and we don't have time to do this, but like there were literally dozens and dozens of times in his letters to the churches where he's basically going, hey, I'm just as good as they are. And then you go, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that basically. Or you go, hey, this may sound foolish, but I just want to remind you, like he has these whole list of things like, if you're a Jew, I'm the biggest Jew of all. If you're a learned person, I've got more education than you. He competes and then sort of he struggles with this. But Paul says something as a guy who sort of struggled with this idea of competing and trying to, on one hand, be humble, and on the other hand, go, hey, you got to listen to me because I know what I'm talking about. Paul gave us this sort of tidbit, I think, from 2 Corinthians, which I just want to share with you because I think it's super helpful. He says, oh, don't worry. And this is in this long, it's about 3 chapters where he's sort of comparing himself in a way and sort of going, hey, these guys are saying you shouldn't listen to me because I'm no big deal, but I want to tell you, like, I feel stupid telling you, but man, I am. But he says, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we're as wonderful as any of these other men. We tell you how important they are. And then he says these words. He says, they're only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as a standard of measurement. How ignorant. See, that's interesting because I think that's what most of us do, right? That's where we sort of, I'm not going to say the danger zone thing because I'm afraid it would start playing again, but that's where we get in trouble, right? The fact that we sort of measure ourselves against those around us. And here's the problem, like winning your fantasy football league doesn't make you a great coach. Like you can't go to the NFL from your fantasy football league, but we feel like that, right? Like we feel like, hey, if I'm better than them, then I'm good. Or if I'm not better than them, I must be terrible. And here's the thing, what happens is because, and Paul was so right, like we really, really lose it because there's no reward to that. There's a tiny little reward to be like, get the most likes on Instagram or be top at your office or hey, I'm the smartest guy on Twitter. No, you're not. Just among your 72 followers, you feel like it. Like it's like amazing. Like we risk all of this capital in our relationships and sometimes in our careers and in our families to get these tiny little bumps of serotonin from being the best, but it's just not real and it's a huge problem. So that's what Paul said. He said, it's not wise to compare yourself, to sort of measure yourself by others around you. Please don't make me play it again. I have to. But Paul said, the last time, I swear. It's the highway to the danger zone. He said, you will get in trouble. It's 6 seconds long, and I couldn't do it again. I'm sorry. Should have done it. Don't make me do it again. I can go back if I had to. But here's the thing that Paul was saying, and here's the thing that I've come to know from this. Why I believe he was so right. He said there's two outcomes. Like, it's not wise to spend your life comparing yourself, sort of measuring yourself by the people around you, because we're only going to go two places, right? We're going to be proud. We're going to go, well, I'm clearly better than they are, which not only is not helpful, it's super annoying to everyone around you. Or envy. It's weird, like how dangerous these two things are, and it's like the ultimate in the no-win game that we all sort of struggle with as Americans, especially in 2017, how we're all connected via media and social media. It's so easy, like, to look at every situation and go, am I top gun? Am I the best at this? Am I the best mom in my group of mom friends? Am I the highest earner in my company? Am I the best dad? Do I have the fastest car? Do I have the most buff biceps? Yes, I do, but I didn't mean to say it out loud. Like, whatever it is, we sort of measure ourselves not on any real standard, but just on the people around us. And then we're either proud, which slows us down, right? Like, being proud doesn't help you achieve anything. It actually makes you sort of lackadaisical and lazy. Or you fall into envy. And envy's dangerous. Envy's dangerous. It's so interesting, sort of like looking back to the 10 Commandments. We often go, hey, don't murder, don't steal, all of those things. We go, well, that still applies. But that's not all. Like the whole don't envy your neighbors stuff. That's so huge. It's still such a part that just, man, we just destroy our lives based on envy or pride. Now, I think this morning, even if you're not a follower of Jesus, even if you're not a church person, even if you're just checking this out, which what a weird Sunday to do that. Like, I went to this place and they talked about Top Gun and the Apostle Paul and Jesus. It was weird. But anyway, I think even if you're not a follower of Jesus this morning, that's probably good advice. I think it's good advice for everyone. Like, you could walk away going, you know what? If I'm going to live an excellent life, if I'm going to live a successful life, I'm not talking about monetary success or what, I'm talking about like living a life that is valuable. If I'm going to flourish as a human being, like, I cannot go through life just sort of comparing myself with those around me and just trying to be the best. Top Gun, I'm the best. But the problem is who should you compare yourself with? I think this is an area where, as a Christian, I think this is an argument about why, beyond anything else, like why there is so much value. A lot of times we look at Christianity and go, oh, it's about your sins being forgiven. It's about the next world. It's about reward versus punishment. No, I think just here on this earth, I think being Christian is so powerful and so valuable because one of the things we struggle with is if we don't compare ourselves to our friends, or we don't compare ourselves with our followers on Twitter or whatever the Instagram thing, and I don't even know what Snapchat does, so I'm old. But anyway, like, if we don't compare ourselves with them, then how should we measure ourselves? I mean, what is it? And that's where I think as a follower of Christ, as someone who says Christ is the King, Christ is the Lord, the commander of my life, that is the standard I use. It's something outside of us, outside of our circle of friends, outside. And so I think I want to show you one more clip from Top Gun. Because it's interesting, once again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this 33-year-old movie, Maverick doesn't win the Top Gun trophy. In fact, it's funny, I had forgotten that. When I went back and watched it after 30 years, I was like, well, I thought he won. I thought he was the winner of the Top, and then I realized, like, no, Goose died, he almost quit. Like, all of these things happened where it went horribly for Maverick, and he didn't win the Top Gun trophy. In fact, where we pick up this clip here is the end of the movie. There's something so valuable to learn, I think, because he's actually thinking about just leaving the military, and it's only an 80's movie to do. There's this epic moment by I'll just show you. It's awesome. See, did you catch that? I want the band to come back up. But I remembered, I really did. The way I remembered is Maverick won. But he really didn't. His partner died. He lost the trophy. But in the end, his commander, the guy who had sort of busted him down so many times for not doing the right thing, he finally got the approval of his commander that I still remember his name, Viper, because I'm cool like that. And that's what Paul said. Paul said, you know what winning is as a Christian? You know what winning is in this life? Is not to just sort of be top gun among your little circle of friends, not to just be top gun on Twitter, not to be best mom in my Instagram group, none of those things. None of those things he said. When people commend themselves, it doesn't count for much, right? Like, that doesn't make you great just because you're better than them. In fact, you might not be very good at all. And he said the important thing is for the Lord to commend them. So I want to pray with you as the band gets ready to play. And I want to ask you to take sort of a tiny risk, to think about taking a tiny risk, because that's what it is. This idea of like, if I'm, as a Christian, I can't spend my life trying to be top gun in my circle of friends, in my circle of influence, but to instead go, you know what, I'm going to live differently. And it will be a consistent effort. It's not a huge effort, but a consistent effort of going, what would Jesus think of this? What would the Lord think of this? What would God say about this? But here's the thing, it's not this tiny remote reward. It's not this name on a plaque that no one remembers. It's much bigger than that. It's an eternal reward. And so I just want to pray for you this morning. And I want you to consider, because I know this morning you walked in here and many of you would say, I'm not even competitive. I'm not like that, but you are. And I am. And we are. And all of us want to be top gun. But there's a different way of living, and especially if you consider yourself a Christian, it must be this. So I just want to pray with you this morning. You consider that. Dear Lord in heaven, God, help us to be people who live to impress you. Not our friends, not our followers, not our fans. God, help us to live to impress you. And that someday you would say, well done, good, you're a faithful servant. And God, I know that will cause us to live differently, and I know that will cause tension in our lives, but God, we just ask that you would give us the strength and the courage to live differently according to your plan. In your name we pray. Amen.